Seismic 7, Chapter 4, Part 1. My stomach rumbles in a worry that it's going to echo around the dark hall. Miss McNamara leads the way now. Dr. Greer dropped back to walk with the men from the truck. A string of lights next to us illuminates our path, but it's impossible to see anything beyond their reach. I've never been in a cave like this before, with square walls reinforced by old wooden beams. Did someone cut through here on purpose? This was a failed attempt at a coal mine once upon a time. Miss McNamara gestures around. Oh. They tried a few of these throughout the region, but most didn't end up going anywhere. Miss McNamara continues. This one isn't on any map we've ever come across in any of our park history. Dr. Greer has modified it for our purposes and blasted some tunnels deeper down for access to the natural cracks in the earth at the edge of the caldera. Is that where you're drilling? I ask. Around us there are veins of what I think is gypsum flickering in the dim light. Not many stalactites, though, for there being this many mineral deposits. In Earthbuilder, whenever there were a ton of mineral deposits, usually stalactites, would form from water dripping down in caves. Yes, very good, Miss McNamara says. Why did you pick this side of the caldera? I ask. The caldera runs in a full ring around Yellowstone, and there are underground cracks along its entire edge, all heading down to the magma below. The western edge has its magma chamber far deeper down underground by our calculations, Dr. Greer explains from behind me. We are concentrating our efforts first on the northeast, where the magma is closest to the surface and has the greatest chance of erupting. I think that makes perfect sense, Todd says. Kinsey rolls her eyes my way. Okay, now watch your step, Miss McNamara's voice echoes around us. This is where the main path ends. It's a short journey to the stairs, but these stones are loose, so be careful. I step gingerly off the trodden path, down the path, and onto a bunch of rocks ranging in size from golf balls to basketballs. It's too dark to see what kind of rocks they are, and also, unfortunately, too dark to walk across them without tripping and slipping. I feel super foolish every time I lose my footing and hope no one is watching me fail my way across the cave floor. Keep up, one of the men prods Wyatt forward. He wobbles a bit, but then picks his way across the rocks to join us. The man shakes his head at Dr. Greer, who shuts him up with one look. I really don't like these guys following us. Okay, sure, they might work here, trying to save us all from the apocalypse, but they also make me feel like I can't back out of this. Mustering up my courage, I decide I need to ask right now what our options are, because I did not sign up for a summer of tunneling underground to a magma pit. Hey, Miss McNamara? I hop from one big rock to another to get closer to her. Yes? Just out of curiosity, what would you guys do if we said we didn't want to help? I can taste the guilt in my mouth as I ask. Miss McNamara glances back at Dr. Greer. Well, we're really hoping you'll say yes. But if you said no, we'd ask that you stay here with us for the summer until it's all wrapped up. I stumble at that. Oh. Of course, if you want to leave, we can't stop you, she continues quickly. But ideally, if you decided not to help us, you would work with me in other areas of the park doing more of my normal duties for the next couple of months, so we don't risk things leaking out. I nod, pulling my jacket tighter again. I'm not sure if this makes me feel better or worse. We wouldn't dream of forcing you to do anything that made you uncomfortable, Miss McNamara says, but we are talking about the fate of our world. If that sounds dramatic, that's because it is. Time is running out. We need you, Bree. I try to nod again, but find I can't. I want to be brave enough for this, but I keep thinking how Aunt Pauline would be way better at this than me. I mean, she's off in LA, risking her life cleaning up collapsed buildings, and here I am, barely walking across a cave without tripping. I take a deep breath and imagine Aunt Pauline here, filming me. The intrepid explorer, Brianna Marie Dobson, has been asked to join an operation to save the planet Earth. Will she agree, even if it puts her own life at risk? I don't have an answer to that, but I do know that video would get a heck of a lot of views. A thought hits me. If I agreed to help, could I get my camera back? What would be more epic than a documentary about drilling through our planet to save the world? My mind threatens to run away with the idea, and I have to pinch my nails into my palms to bring myself back. We reach a spiral wooden staircase. Some of the steps have been replaced by metal, and I wonder if it's because they had rotted too badly to be safe. Our base of operations is just down here, Miss McNamara turns to address the group. There, we'll get you four settled in and fed, and we will pass out some of your gear. Gear? Wyatt asks. To go underground, Todd answers, obviously. I frown in his direction. I wanted more specifics than that, but the adults seem content to let that answer sit as it is. I look back at Kinsey for some help, but her eyes are glittering outward to the next section of cave, and I soon see why. An absolutely massive cavern lies ahead of us. Holy moly! The space below and ahead of us puts the car-sized cave entrance to my shame. If you shaved off the sides, you could probably fit my entire school in here. I really wish I had my camera now. Several small buildings sit below us in an open camp-like area. Hanging lamps illuminate paths between the structures like street lights. I can see half a dozen other adults already from my vantage point on the stairs, and even some pickup trucks shuttling stuff around. Wow, this big of an operation must have taken ages to put together and must be super hard to keep secret. We start our descent down the winding stairwell, each silently taking in the idea of a tiny town inside a mountain. Who are they? Wyatt asked, pointing to the edge of the cave town from a couple steps higher than me. I peer out but don't see anyone. Who? Kinsey asks, hopping where she stands to look over the buildings. I thought I just saw some other kids, Wyatt says. Oh, well, we've needed people your size to help for a while now, Miss McNamara explains. You're not the first kids we've invited here, but you are the first who will help with the next phase of this whole operation. Really? I ask, honestly a little hurt. Despite not being sure I want to be here at all, learning we weren't Dr. Greer's first choices stings. Todd, perhaps feeling similarly, shoves his hands in his pockets and continues down the steps. I shake my head. I need to get my ego under control. I'm sure the other kids are nice and we'll be able to work together just fine. If we decide to do the work at all, I remind myself, none of us have agreed to help yet, and I can't start thinking like I have when I haven't. Kinsey huffs next to me, crossing her arms. I mimic her, and together we follow Todd and Miss McNamara down. Wyatt trails us with Dr. Greer and the unnamed men. After we reach the bottom, they lead us to one of the buildings. It's windowless and made out of wood, with a small metal chimney at one end, like a strange variation on a log cabin. Miss McNamara opens the door to reveal a room warmed and lit by a small stove. Sleeping bags line the floor. You'll be staying here, she says. I trust you girls and boys can behave together. She grins, and I think all four of us must be blushing, but I can't know for sure because I refuse to look at anyone else. Oh goodness, I don't know. Somehow I think we can manage, Kinsey says, breaking the awkward silence. Our laughter stops when the adults dump our stuff onto the wooden floorboards, all except for our phones and my camera. I notice. Those remain in the bag Miss McNamara collected them in, which is still in her possession. We'll be back to get you for dinner, Dr. Greer says. She hands out piles of papers. For now, read these. They'll give you all the information you need. What about our phones? Todd asks. No tech, Dr. Greer says. I can't have any of you bringing attention to this place. We immediately launch into protest. What? But what about for the whole summer? We all have to make sacrifices, Dr. Greer snaps. Samantha, Miss McNamara cuts in gently. We're asking so much of these kids. I think we can trust them, especially seeing as there's basically no service here. She turns to us. But if any of you do get a signal, you must have to promise to keep what we're doing on the down low. Can you do that? Kenzie's already grabbing the bag from Miss McNamara's hands. She pulls her phone out, then passes the knapsack around to each of us as Dr. Greer's eyes narrow. Miss McNamara gives the woman a sheepish shrug. Like Dr. Greer, I can't help but stare at Miss McNamara and think of her apparent faith in the honor system as I take my phone and camera out. It's kind of sweet, but also really, really naive. But then I unlock my phone and to my dismay quickly find out that just like Miss McNamara predicted, I can't get any service. At all. No Wi-Fi, no data, nothing. Maybe if we go outside. Todd holds his phone up and walks the cabin trying to get signal. I'm right there with him. Come on, come on. I raise my phone all the way up to the wooden rafters. I've never managed to get service out in this region of the park, Miss McNamara says. It's not one of the areas visitors frequent, so coverage is poor. No tech, Dr. Greer repeats herself more firmly. One of the men takes the bag from Kenzie and holds it out in front of her, insisting she put her phone back in it. I'm not giving you my phone, Kenzie says. I haven't even agreed to help you yet. Behind her, Wyatt leafs through some of the papers Dr. Greer handed out. You will agree, Dr. Greer says, once you see the data. At least you should. She stares down Miss McNamara, something akin to anger flashing in her eyes. You four were chosen because you would understand. Miss McNamara actually laughs at that. Oh, Samantha, they will, she says. Honestly, I think you made excellent selections for student participants. Isn't skepticism the hallmark of good scientists? So is open-mindedness, Dr. Greer nods at Wyatt, who is already reading. Kenzie grumbles. I've got next after Wyatt, Todd says, eagerly eyeing the pile of research. I called first on our way in here, Kenzie says. I don't remember her saying that, but watching Todd's face mess up is worth keeping my mouth shut. Miss McNamara laughs once again. My goodness. Kenzie? Bachelor of Science, my future degree, Kenzie sniffs. Out comes the lipstick again. Here, Wyatt hands Kenzie half the stack. Hey, I said next, Todd protests. Phones, Dr. Greer insists. The man next to her holds out the bag once again. Miss McNamara shakes her head from the cabin doorway, and I crumple inside, realizing she's about to give in and stop fighting for us to keep our stuff. It'll be easier for everyone if you just do as she says right now, she tells us. If you really want your phones, we can figure something out later. What about my camera? I ask, clinging to it. Miss McNamara sighs. I'll work on that too. For now, just turn in all tech and let me worry about getting it back for you. Todd sighs and grudgingly hands his phone in. This is just a precaution, Miss McNamara goes on to say. Dr. Greer is right. We can't accidentally have any information get out about our operation. Wyatt hands his phone in next, and I part with mine after him.